All right, hello everybody, and welcome today to my presentation, Navigation Tricks in PowerPoint. And I'm Monika Wahi, a data scientist, and so you're probably like, why are you talking about PowerPoint? Well, it's because I use PowerPoint a lot as a data scientist, and I use it in kind of a different way. But regardless of how you use PowerPoint, it is hard to navigate it. So thank you for showing up. And I'm going to help you. Hopefully, when you're done with my lecture, you're going to have a better time with PowerPoint. You're going to have better ways of trying to find things that you know are there, and even more strategies like my tricks. So thank you for showing up, and that's what we're going to talk about. So first of all, why do I even care about PowerPoint? Oh, and feel free to put any questions in the chat if you want. So you're probably wondering, like, why do I even care about PowerPoint? Well, it's because I use it so much, and I've actually used it since it was invented. So PowerPoint was originally invented as software where you create slides, but they actually get printed out like in the 90s, like in these little films, and then you have these slide projectors. And you really needed that. You needed software, just like you need publishing software. You need software to format the slides. So if you think about that, what happened was each time Microsoft upgraded PowerPoint, they had to keep the same old menus and the same old functions and keep calling them the same thing, or the people using PowerPoint since way back then wouldn't be able to know what to do. But the problem is a lot of new functions got added, and also it just ended up becoming very hard to navigate. And when I do my demonstration, I'll sort of show you different components, navigation components that were sort of added over the years. And it seemed like a good idea at the time, but now everything is really confusing. So it's really kind of cool to have some tricks to know how to get around in PowerPoint, but it's too bad we need these tricks. The reason it's because it's kind of legacy software now. It's just grown so much over the years. So what happens is, like, the same functionality, like you'll see I'll work a lot with shapes in my demonstration. So let's say you want to color in a shape. Well, now there's probably, like, I can think of like 3 or 4 ways that you can do that, right? And with mouse, not even considering key commands. So I'm going to just I'm going to sort of show you what I do and try to give you a framework for if you're ever in PowerPoint, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to add a shape and I don't know where to go or what to do. Just a way of sort of thinking to get through. I don't know if you've ever heard this term, but there's this term called cognitive load. And what it refers to is how complex something is to figure out visually. Well, I'll say visually. I mean visually. So like if you're teaching a student and they put up like a bar chart and there's stuff all over it and you can't read the labels, there's too much cognitive load. So sometimes you say, well, you need to simplify this, right? Well, adding all these menus has created a lot of cognitive load. So you end up kind of confused in PowerPoint, even if you're like an expert like me. So that's what I'm going to show you is ways I sort of hack through that confusion. But before we continue, I need to give you this this advertisement for a free workshop. So if you've ever really wanted to learn the basics of how applications are built, like who designs them and how do they get built, who pays for them getting built, and you're probably like, well, why would I care about that? If you're a data scientist, you probably should care about that because we know the data part, we just don't know the other part, right? Like I had to learn the other part. So I'm going to share my knowledge with you. So the applications basics workshop, I'm scheduling the November one over Saturday and Sunday to try and make it easier for people who work during the week to come. So I anticipate that each session is going to be 4 to 5 hours, which is kind of long, but I'm going to keep it lively. We're going to be doing breakout sessions on Zoom. You can do that. And you're doing challenges and stuff. And that way, you'll stay awake and enjoy it, maybe do a little networking. If you've come to my workshops before, come right back, enjoy it, because we'll have a different theme. Our theme is going to be integrating application pipelines. So the free workshop is based on an online course I have called Applications Basics, which you'll get an access to for free if you participate in the workshop. And then we can just have fun together talking about application pipelines and better ways to do things, more efficient ways. All right, so that's the end of the commercial. Hope to see you at the workshop. Back to our regularly scheduled program. So why care about navigation PowerPoint? I kind of preluded to this. Oh, and by the way, you definitely want to download these slides because you want all these links. That's just how I give you a bunch of links. You just have to download the slides, because the first link on there is to my Data Curation Foundations course. And you'll see in that course, I teach you basically about using PowerPoint and also other Microsoft products, but for curation. So I do a lot of data curation. Also, that on that same platform where I have my Applications Basics course, I've got another course called PowerPoint for Visualizations. And all it does is teach you certain settings or certain strategies to set up PowerPoint if you're trying to make visualizations rather than slides, like diagrams rather than slides, because it always wants to make slides. And so it's a way of sort of hacking through that. It's not a very long course. It's just my tips and tricks on that. And also I've got some blog posts on here about using PowerPoint, mainly for data curation. So I use PowerPoint for data curation. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I make application flow diagrams. Like I'll make data set documentation, like this data set goes into that data set, and documentation of variables, like or like I'm going like this because I do macros. I'll document a macro, or I'll make like a front end development. I'll make like a front end form in PowerPoint as a way of sort of specking a form out. It's a poor woman's data curation tool. They have other software that you can use to make certain diagrams. In fact, like if you're using SQL or some data programs, they can automate making an ERD, right? Well, I like to make an ERD in PowerPoint because then I can really like control it. Like I don't have to put all the tables on, or I can just say, okay, these fields, like 20 diagnostic fields, and I just don't have to listen to the automation. I can just do whatever I want. So PowerPoint is very agnostic. It can be used to clean up a data visualization. It can be used because what you can do is make a diagram on a slide and then save as JPEG, and then you've got this great diagram, right? But PowerPoint wasn't really designed for data curation. So sometimes when you're doing it, you're using things that are easy to get to, and sometimes you're not. So I'm going to show you about that. This is a screenshot from my PowerPoint for Visualizations course, just in case you want to take it. I think I had put the link. I put the link in there in case you want to get to it. All right, so first I'm going to show you just a few slides, and this is another reason why you want to download these slides, because I've got these diagrams to just explain a few navigation things to you, and then I'm going to do a demonstration. All right. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to say is that in PowerPoint, there are many confusing menus. You already know that. There are many ways to add and configure shapes. And I just want to sort of point this out. Here, when you're on, this is the insert menu. I'm going to show you. I spend a lot of time on the home menu, but if you're on the insert menu, you can insert shapes from here. But here you'll see I have a shape selected and a picture. I have a bunch of stuff selected. And see these orange menus? I don't know if they're orange just for me. Like maybe if you have a different theme on your computer, they're a different color. But they're not the same color as the rest of these. And these are just hidden menus that only show up if you've clicked on something. It's kind of like pivot tables in Excel, where like you can only modify the pivot table if you click on it. And so you're like, okay, how do I modify this table? This is kind of the same thing. You might be looking for these menus, and if you haven't clicked on a picture or a shape, you just don't see it, right? And but you can get there from other places. So here's another thing, and I have a whole video on this, but I'll just quickly demonstrate it today. Notice how I was just talking about the home and the insert tab. There's another tab I go to a lot, which is design. And the reason I go there, it's got these things I don't really use. But this is called the variance menu. You can't see it because this is covering up. Under this variance menu, you've got the color scheme where you can change the color scheme. You also got fonts where you can change, and these are defaults, right? And so you can become very efficient if you figure out how to do that. And so like I have another video on that you can look at. It was like last week, I think it was. Okay, and so then over here, I'm going kind of quickly, but I'll re-show you these things. If you are here on the shapes menu, so let's say you get the shapes menu, and there's a lot of different ways to get the shapes menu. In fact, you'll see if you're on home, there's a little baby shapes menu in the upper left corner, but the shapes menu is sort of the same each time. Like there's recently used shapes at the top, and of course those always screw me up because there's different stuff there each time. And often I go here when I want to add a text box. Why would I do that? It's not a shape. But if I recently have added a text box, there'll be one up here, even though it's not a shape. I know it's super confusing, right? So sometimes when I can't figure out how to add a text box, like I see it's over here, this is the insert menu. But if I just forget, I'll sometimes just go up here and see it. Like here's my text, because I'm always adding text boxes. But really, it's not really in this menu. So the list goes recently used shapes, lines. Now, I just want you to notice there are arrows here and like bending arrows too. So like lines, then you've got all these rectangles, and I'm not really sure why. I'm not sure why they separated that. This basic shapes is really important because this is where you have shapes that you can like make other shapes out of. Like if let's say you were doing something with ice cream, you could easily make like an ice cream cone out of this a triangle and this circle, right? Or like let's say you're doing something with a school, you could make it like a square with this thing on it and just say school or whatever. So these are nice shapes that you can, and also heart, like if you want to say something is lovable or good, or and here's where I use the cloud for the internet. If you want to do an internet, indicate it's going through the internet. So remember how these arrows are up here? These are skinny arrows. You have fat arrows too. See this arrow I used on this diagram? That's like if I want really people to notice, or I want to show a big like busy process flow, I'll use these. But notice there's like a lot of weird stuff in here. Like these curvy arrows, sometimes I can get them to look good on a diagram and sometimes I can. And then this sort of U-turn one and this double arrow, sometimes I use that. These are a little difficult to use. And also sometimes if you type, like if I use this arrow and then I turn it to the side and I type something on it, the font is always going to think like I'm pointing up. So it takes some working with to figure out what arrows you want. And then you have these equation shapes. I never use that. These flowchart shapes, I have a whole video on that. Like, and you'll notice some of these sort of duplicate, like look little similar to this. And then there are these stars and banners. I never use those. But what the point is if you can kind of remember the order of this shapes menu, and you can kind of remember where in it are the things you actually use, like probably not stars and banners, but probably you do use this cloud for internet. That's another way of just getting your navigation up, because this menu, I can get to it from here, but you can get to it from other places. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the slide master, and I'll show you a demonstration how to get that. The slide master is how you can set defaults, but how you get to it is really weird. Like you have to go to view. So I'll show you that too. Let's see here. And I think I showed you this already, that there's this colors and fonts menu. See, I've got these demonstration slides. These are the demonstration slides I use in the PowerPoint for visualization course. But, it's based on a true story, because all of these visualizations, they started out as something I did for a customer, and I just changed all the words or made it simpler or something, right? And so here we have and here's an application flow. I use this for the internet instead of that cloud. I don't know, I was feeling like electric that day. All right, so let's say that I'm making a diagram like this, or I want to modify a diagram like this. Okay, PowerPoint has you on the home menu, right? first, I just want to show you what happens if you double click. See that? Now I'm going to double click again, and that came down. When I double click, it disappears. So how are you going to do anything, right? Well, when I click, like I clicked on transitions, it goes away. So if you double click, you make it display all the time. I don't know anybody who hides it all the time. I think it's easier to display it all the time. The problem is it takes up a lot of space on your screen, okay? The other thing is, the part of the reason why I need to display it all the time is sometimes I really don't remember what I'm looking for. Like, for example, I'll do the master thing. So what the master is, so imagine I want a new slide here, and I go here and I choose one of these new slides. Like, let me choose this one, okay? The master says how all of this is formatted. So let's say I didn't like it and I wanted to change it. To get to the master, you have to go to view. Now, view is a really weird menu because you almost never need to get there. This is one of the only reasons. So if you look across these menus, some of these I don't even see. Like, I don't even use help. I don't even use add-in. I don't use record. I don't really use transitions, you know, and I don't use draw. And so I only use view for this, which is getting to these master views. So right now, this looks like the slides I was making a minute ago. But as soon as I click on this, now we're seeing the slide master. And see, this is down here. This is what I, in last week's, I showed how to set defaults. You go to the top one, and then you can set defaults through the whole thing that will cascade. Like, for example, see, the slide master is here. It wasn't there before, right? Like, home was right there. But now that we're in the slide master, somehow it's right there. Okay. And so now I have to go to home because I want to change this font. And so how do you do it? Well, you have to actually click on it. So I'm going to click on this. See, now it lets me, and this is a home, it lets me change the font. So I'm just change it to just to show you what I'm doing, just to explain it. I'll change this to Arial Black, right? So because I was on the top slide, it changed it on all of them. But the thing I was trying to demonstrate was to just change it here. So let me change these. I'll just make it like red so you can see it. So here it red. So you'll always see, so this thing up here is called the ribbon. Okay, that's what this big menu thing is. Each of these things here are called a group. So if you're like Googling for advice on how to get somewhere in PowerPoint, and it says go to the view menu and go to group or whatever, go to the home menu and go to the font group. That's what they mean. Like, go to the home menu, go to the drawing group. That's the terminology. Okay. So you have this home, and this is called the ribbon. And so these are the groups on the ribbon. So if you're on home and you want to do anything with font, you can probably get to most things using these buttons on this ribbon, right? Under the font group. So I was just showing you, like, here, all of this stuff here is a shortcut to the font group. But I'll be honest, I don't understand what most of these things mean. Like, I understand what this means, right? So this is Calibri, and let's say I want it to be, I don't know, Times New Roman. Everybody uses that, right? So you can see it changed to Times New Roman. And you can see that this is the font size. That's pretty obvious. I don't know. Let's make it big. Okay. I think this makes it smaller. This makes it bigger, whatever. I don't really use these. And see, this is bold. This is saying it's bold. Let's say we don't want it bold. Let's say we want to underline. But then, you know, the strikeout is kind of interesting. I don't really, and then here is the highlight, and this is just to color the text. But not all of these are really obvious to me. And the reason why these are not obvious to me is I'm used to the old menus. All right. So how do you get to the old menus? Well, like, you'll notice over here on slides, there's not a little thing in the lower right. Like, there's a thing in the lower right. There's not one here, but there is one here. So let's click on it. Aha. These are what the old menus are. So if you're like, well, wait a second, this looks a little like Windows XP. I don't know how old you guys are, but it is. These are the original menus. So in the old software, when we used to just choose stuff from a list, I'd go to insert and there'd be this long list of things I can choose, right? And it would bring up this box. And so these boxes all look very similar. They have tabs at the top, and then they have all these things that you can configure, which are basically the long form of what's up here. So for example, like, I don't know what this means, right? This says very tight, tight, normal, loose, very loose, more spacing. I have literally no idea what that is. However, I see on here, there's a character spacing tab. If I wanted to control spacing, I never do, but if I wanted to, I'd be using this because it says spacing and I can choose normal, expanded, or condensed. I can say by how many points. I don't know what the word kerning means, but if I did, I could set the kerning. But doing it from this thing, I mean, I probably wouldn't even do it right. And in fact, you'll see here that I set this Times New Roman using this. I set this regular in this 36, and I set this underline. But let's say I wanted a fancy underline, right? I wouldn't be able to change it except to come here. Like, oh, here's a fancy underline. Okay. Did it even work? Oh yeah, there it is. So that's the relationship of these things to the group. So I just edited this master to show you that, okay, now we have the slide master thing here. I'm on home, whatever. Okay, this shape format thing is here. How do I get out of this master? So what happens is if you're in the master and you need to get out, you can go to slide master and then get out, close master view. So notice how this whole menu, this menu, just wasn't even there until we viewed the slide master. Now I'm going to close it. All right. It's gone. See that? But we're back to this, our home menu. And remember, I just went over this right here. And in fact, you know, we can even do more with that. Okay, I suppose I better write something like, hi, my name is. Okay, so here's a paragraph, right? Here is a bullet. So the reason I did this is I showed you how to do the font, how to get that. This is the paragraph thing. So what's the difference between font and paragraph? Well, the font really has to do with what's going on each line, and paragraph has to do with what goes on in between, or like to configure entire lines or entire groups. Like, you don't really think in paragraphs in PowerPoint, right? But let's say over here, like, I didn't want bullet points. Well, here we are in paragraph. This is bullet points, right? I can turn it off and then there's no bullet points. But if I turn it on, maybe I don't like the bullet points and I can choose these. Okay. You'll notice that this menu has this thing at the bottom. You'll see sometimes that if you try to use these arrows ones, like this one here, like that one didn't have it, but here, I tried to use this color thing, and it says more colors and eyedropper. Sometimes you'll get like extra stuff at the bottom of these buttons. But what I actually like to do is just click on this, because then I can look at all of the choices. But I almost feel like maybe not all the choices are there. Like, what do these things do? Like, this is indentation, and you can see, you can create, this is that hanging indent, and this is before and after how many points. You can control all that. One of the things that's the problem with PowerPoint is nobody knows what those are, and it's hard to control. So that's part of the reason why they just made this here. Like, before they added this, every time I went into PowerPoint, I would have to go like this. I'd have to create, this is called the ruler. I'd have to create this in the ruler like this. And then I'd have to say, this is what I used to do every time I needed a bullet point. Okay. Now, see, it does this auto format. And notice how When I did it, I had a 1/2 inch and it just automatically forwarded it to the small thing. That's me fighting with PowerPoint. I really hate this small thing. I like this wider one. So what if I want it that way? What if I want this wider one? Well, here is where I could probably configure that, right? And again, now we're getting 2 of these old menus, and we're like, okay, what do we do? How do I like how do I get it the way I want it to look? Like I had a star, an asterisk before, and it changed it to this. And how, like, here, maybe customize. Okay, here. I could choose something. I'll choose copyright. So now I've got this, right? But I would say the main way that I control this is through this ruler. So how do you even get to the ruler? Well, remember view? Like we went to view for view slide master. Well, you can check off ruler under view. It's under the show. So I always have the ruler there. Like I realized I was just demonstrating the ruler and it's always there, right, for me. Like once you check it, it pretty much stays on. Some people also like to see grid lines. Here's grid lines and here's guides. You might not be able to see them. There's very light. Main thing I look at is the ruler because this helps me sort of diagnose what's going on. All right. So I've been sort of jumping around here, but let's go back to the home menu and just make sure that we understand the groups on the home menu, at least the ones we use a lot. Here we've got the clipboard, and you know what the clipboard is for? When you do like if I do copy and paste, so I want to do like copy and then paste, right? Well, why didn't you see me do anything? Because I was using the key commands. I was using Control C for copy and Control V for paste. And like here, if it says paste, you can go on to paste special. Like I don't even know what it's doing. Like why is it doing that? I mean, I really don't know. Because when I paste like this, it's just pasting a Microsoft object. So you paste. Yeah, I guess this is a choice and this is a choice. This is always so weird. This paste, that's what I'm saying. Like the paste menu is so confusing. Like these things are so confusing. I pretty much use key commands, right? Like I think this is cut. Yeah, that looks like cut. I'm not even sure what this is. But I'll tell you, when it comes to this paste here, like I almost always just use Control V, but sometimes you can do something really cool with this. Like actually, let me open an Excel sheet for a second here. So let's say that you make an Excel spreadsheet and it looks a certain way, right? Like I worked hard on this format, like, and you've got like some yellow cells over here. I don't know. You just really want it to look exactly like that, okay, on your slide. If you just try to copy this and then you just go paste it here, I'll paste it over here. You basically get, like, if I just do Control V, I get that, and that's not what I want it to be, right? So see, now I have all these choices. So sometimes what I'll do is actually, let me make a new slide. Here's new slide. I use that. Let's use blank. So now when we do paste, I can paste like this or like this. Sometimes it shows it to you like there. But that's if I choose that one. And that's if I choose that one, right? Now you see how that one, if I choose that one, it looks exactly the way I wanted. But if I choose this one, it's actually a table. It actually makes this into a table, but this is just a JPEG, right? Or like an image. So what you kind of have to do when you're using paste, let's see here. I think, no, that's not it, is the paste special menu. You can get to use, you can figure out what this means, but actually those choices were up there were what that meant. And so I usually just shop around for the paste I like from that menu. The other thing that's good on the clipboard menu is this format painter, and I'll explain why. So let's say I don't really like how this is. First of all, I just think it has, let's say I think the shape has, it's the outline is too wide. Well, how can we adjust the outline? Well, I clicked on it. I could go to shape format, I think, and see, how like that goes away, right? So I go on to shape format, and then over here I can see the shape outline. Okay. But I think I could have actually fixed it from here. If you can't find it, you can, here's the shapes menu. No, I'm not sure. I think I have to go over here. And then here's a shape outline. So now when I choose a shape outline, look at all the choices I have. Remember I said it was too heavy? That's under weight. If I was like, oh, I wish I had dashes, that would be here. But this is the weight. So I said it's too heavy. I'm going to make it light. So I'm going to make it 1. Okay, see, it looks different from all the other ones. Okay, and then let's say I don't like the font. So what are we going to do? Well, we could change the font. Like I almost like always just go to the home to change font on anything, because I love this. Like I actually like something in here. I love this, and because it makes it really easy. Oh, I definitely want, I don't know. Let's do Arial. See, that's different. And also I want red font. Okay. And also I want to color this in. Well, if I want to color this in, I could go back to the shape format and do the shape fill. But you'll notice that while I'm on it, like I could color it in over here under this drawing menu, which is on the home menu. So sometimes I do this and sometimes I do that. Like I just, whatever comes to me. So let's say I'm going to fill this in. I guess let's fill it in with something we can tell, like green. Oh, that's ugly. How about brown? I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this to like orange. There. Okay. So this now, I went through all this to change this. And let's say I have to change all of these. Well, if I just want to change one, I can click on this and go to this, the format painter. And now it's loaded. See how it looks like a painter? And I can aim it at this and hit it. Okay, but let's say I have to go around and change all of these. I would double click. Now you notice when you double click, it looks like it's pressed in, kind of like this looked like these look like they're pressed in. And then I can just fire. Pew, 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 pew. I don't even have to do these. I can do this one. Pew. All right, enough of that. Okay, that format painter has saved me more time in the world. All right, so going back to this home, I started with this clipboard. Then you've got the slide menu, and this is basically where you insert these new slides. Now, you can reuse slides from outline, but sometimes I'll duplicate the slides. Like I'll do, like let's say I was going to make 2 of these, and one was slightly different. I could do duplicate slide. But I'm going to delete this. It's just as easy to hit the slide, do Control C and Control V, and then it gets duplicated. So, okay. So getting back to this home and then these groups, I showed you what I mainly do with the font group. And I showed you some tricks with the paragraph group. And again, you can get to more things here. You can experiment with these things. Sometimes it's really obvious what they do. Like here, this is really obvious what's going on here. Okay. What I often want is like let's say that like sometimes, like here, see how this text is right on the bottom, but I wish it was centered vertically. Well, where you get to that in the paragraph menu is actually over here. See this top, middle, and bottom, which is like where do you see? I better put something in here. So if I go like this, let's say I wanted to center these, I used I clicked on this, and then you can use Shift and click on something and then select both of them, or you can also just do this to select both of them. I might do middle here, but then what do I do about this going up and down? Well, I can go here to middle. Okay. And so again, it's like you have to do a combination of getting to know what the buttons you like to use do, and also using this, and also knowing where they are. But again, if you use the home, try to use the home as much as possible, because most of the functions are there, then you won't be digging around as much. And also being cognizant of these temporary menus that show up, because if what you're finding is not on home, it's probably on that temporary menu. All right. So we did font and we did paragraph. Now this drawing menu is another thing that it's supposed to be sort of a shortcut to some things. Shapes, it's nice, right? Like like usually when I think about putting in a shape, in my head, I say insert. So I go over here, which is the next menu I'm going to talk about. But if you want to insert a shape and you think of it, you can insert it from here. Okay. So if you go to the insert menu and you say, oh, I want to insert shapes, it's under this group. Notice none of these have a little box in the bottom. So basically what all these are is just another way of getting to other stuff. It's like kind of this additional menu, which I almost never think of, except for I think of it when I'm going to insert like a picture, like clip art or something here. And I also think of it when I'm going to insert shapes. But if I go over here, I often totally forget where this is. Also, this is where you can insert a chart. Like, let me just show you. When you insert a chart, let's just do a pie chart here. It's really kind of hard to do. See what happens? It's this chart's here and it gives you this little database and you have to type stuff in, right? And so I generally do not use insert chart in PowerPoint. I make the chart like in Excel, like over here. I might be like, let's see, Democrat, Republican, Independent. I just made that up. And then we'll say like 50, 75. 32. I just made that up. Okay, so then now I'm in Excel and I'm doing insert. Oh gosh, this got hard. Okay, so I have this chart now. Let's see here. Political parties. So let's just pretend this is a real chart. That's what I do, is I take this and I do copy, and then I just paste it in here, right? That's a way better, and you'll notice it's behaving very similarly. Like you can make it big and it'll resize it. You can go to chart design. You can use stuff, like you can even add a chart element, like you can add this legend. And so if you have charts, I would not use this insert chart. I would instead insert it from either from Excel like I just did, or if you're like using R or SAS or something, and you just created a figure, then what you can do is go under insert pictures and then from this device and just upload it in there. Just upload the image. Like it's a figure, but that's the same way you put, clip art or anything else external on there. And again, that's in the insert menu. But when I'm at home here, I'll get rid of this guy. And I think I want to insert shapes. Sometimes I go to this insert menu and then I get confused. I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess it's here. But if I remember, I can go here. Okay. So let's say I put a couple shapes down here. Let's see here, this one. And now notice how confusing this is, because see what it did? It just opened up the shapes menu. But why? Right? I wanted to add another shape. So now that it opened this up, I see my shape over here. This, like, why is this over here? But I see my shape. So I'm going to insert this. Okay. So I'm just saying, like, oh, then let's say that this kind of leads to something. I'm going to just insert this. I'm on the home now. Okay, this is the dumbest design. But let's say that I created this and I think it's not lined up, right? Like this should be like lined up with this. What you can do is you can use things on the arrange menu. So if I can, whoops, trying to select these here. I'll just select these here. So again, I'm on the home menu. I can come over here on the arrange menu and do a lot of different things. Like I was thinking of aligning them. Like see these diagrams, I can align middle. Yeah, that's a little bit better, right? But there's other things I can do on this. Like if I was going to need to move this around, I could group these together and move it around as a group. But one of the things that often happens is that, whoops, it wants to be a group. That we, like, let's say I want this to be behind this. That's another thing on the arrange menu. Like if I take this and I do send to back, then it'll be behind it. Okay. So this shapes and this arrange menu, and there's more stuff on the arrange menu. But again, this is from home and you can use it even if you're not clicked on anything. Okay. So what we just went through was the main stuff about the home on the home menu. Then going to the insert menu, again, I'm just going to remind you that all I really use here is pictures. Oh, and just to tell you, inserting tables in PowerPoint is a mess. So see how this table looks? It's so hard to configure. Now, if you're really planning on having a table in PowerPoint, like you're having like something like, let's see here. So insert table, like type of analysis, univariate, bivariate, multivariate. So I just came up with this. Let's, because sometimes I make a slide where I'm comparing these three types of analyses, and we have all these attributes about it. Well, that would probably be fine on a slide to do something like that. But I'm from data analysis land, so to me, this is what a table is it's something with labels and a bunch of percentages, and it's been all formatted. So when I do that, I'll end up often just taking like a screenshot basically and putting it and uploading it, like inserting it as a picture. So inserting tables, like scientific tables, as pictures to make your slide look right or your diagram look like in PowerPoint, I'm sorry, that's not illegal. I do it and I think it should be illegal. All right. The other thing that I really use a lot, and I'm realizing it's over here, is this text box, right? And like I said, where is text box on here? Like under shapes, where I normally see it is up here. Oh, I guess it's under basic shapes. But one of the things that it's just, you often get lost is looking for a text box. So just remembering it's usually in shapes. And for me, it's usually in recently used shapes. And that's good. So with this insert, I guess it's over here, but I would never think about it. And also in insert, you'll probably remember, this is where you have like betas and like inserts. Like here, if I insert a symbol, you'll see the symbols I'm always inserting, like beta, alpha, and stuff. And you can get that over here. And then I just want to call it table design layout. See, that's because I'm in here. So if I wanted to manipulate this table, it might be good to go over here, but who knows what's going on, right? Like here, this header row, I can get rid of the header row. I can put it back. And this layout, I can do stuff. Remember how I was saying I was looking at, so sometimes what you end up doing is clicking on the object. Like if you're trying to do something you don't normally do, you end up clicking on the object and just looking at what your choices are. And I tend to try and bring up these things if I can. Oh, here, that brings me to almost the last thing I was going to show you. So I talked about home and insert. There's a few other things that I use, but one of the things I wanted to show you is that you can, if you right click on things, you can get this menu to open on the right side. So I'm going to right click on this table, and it's here, it says format shape. If I choose this with my left click, this will come up, right? And this is super confusing. So here's the fill and here's the line. And actually, let me go to one of these other shapes. Let's go to this shape here, this hospital admission shape. So see that when I click on that, this has solid fill. It's no line. This is how transparent it is. Well, that's kind of nice. We can make it transparent. So as you can see, there's there's a lot of things on this menu that I was doing on these menus and I was doing on these menus. And there's even more. There's like this, and then all these, and this, and then all these. So the overall picture of navigating in PowerPoint is first figure out what you do a lot, and then figure out how to get to it fast. Then there's stuff you don't do as much, and you might get lost. It's good to do the right click thing to see if you can get something to come up here and shop around on what you can do. Another thing that's good to do is just click on it and try to look at whatever temporary menu comes up and look around for what you're doing. If you don't know, what to do. Another thing that you can do is shop around in these things. And again, sometimes you need to be clicked on something in order for these menus to go. Oh, see here, it came up over here, I guess. Yeah, see, now these menus are coming up over here. I didn't know you could get it to do that. Learn something new every day. But one thing that I also want to leave you with is that as PowerPoint grew and it got crazy like this, one of the last things they added was the search. And this is, you can get very spoiled by the search if you know the right terminology. So like here, remember how I said, I went on here and I said, see, you can table design, you can do the header row or like you can do banded rows. Let's say I forgot that and I said banded rows. See how it's saying show banded rows? Or like I always forget where the header and footer is. So header, see, and I can just go to the header and footer and then I don't even have to know where it is, right? So if worst comes to worst, you can go up there and you can get that done. It may have seemed like I was going all over the place and stuff because I was, because there's no real way to be organized about navigating in PowerPoint. The best way you can do is just sort of get to know what's on the ribbon that you use. Another thing you can do is just know the terminology for what you use. But it is really challenging now to get to what you want, even though there's many different ways to get to what you want. Like if you memorize the wording and the terminology, you can just use a search box for the rest of your life. So this kind of opens the bigger picture question of like, what's wrong with PowerPoint? Like that is a problem with an application. Okay. Yeah. But that's probably a conversation for another day. So since I don't see any questions in the chat, I guess I will end my lecture today. But before I end, I need to remind everybody, if you weren't here in the beginning, then you're finding this out new, is that in November, I'm holding my free online workshop in Applications Basics on Saturday and Sunday. So if you couldn't show up during the week because you had to work the weekly hours, maybe you can show up on the weekend. So what is it? This is a free online workshop. It's each session is going to last 4 to 5 hours. It's just 2 sessions. And it's based on my online course called Application Basics. The purpose of this course is to teach non-really computer scientists or people who didn't really come from business and school, like about applications, about how applications are built and who builds them and how they're designed. Because data scientists, like a lot of you out there are data scientists often are not really taught about the whole applications. We just kind of get the data. So this is to fill in your knowledge about applications. It's actually kind of a management thing, so it's fun. You talk about case studies and do challenges together. So please make sure that if you think this is something that interests you, that you sign up for this free online workshop, and then you can network and get to know, like my theme for November is integrating application pipelines. Probably we would not be able to integrate PowerPoint into anything at all, but we might use it to plan and integrating application pipelines, which is basically why I gave this lecture, is because anybody who's planning those things could really use to navigate faster in PowerPoint. All right. Well, thank you so much for showing up today. Make sure you download the slides to get all these valuable links. And I hope to see you at the workshop. Thank you for watching this video, which is part of the Public Health to Data Science Rebrand program. If you are interested in joining the program, please sign up for a 30-minute Zoom interview using the link in the description.